All right, well, good evening, everybody. This is Sam.
Hello.
And that's who?
Bucky. He's Bucky. Okay, thank you for, he's introducing himself. So Bucky's an under-muscled and underweight horse, if you can't tell by the ribs, and then a couple other things which I can get into. Bucky, we don't have to crib right now. Eat your hay. He has better things to do. And I'm going to be talking about some exercises and things that you can do for these horses. The number one most important thing is going to be diet for any horse that needs muscle, because you can't get an overweight horse that you're feeding a ton of sugar to and a ton of carbs and just a ton of calories isn't going to be gaining muscles. It's going to be gaining a lot of weight and I guess muscles too, but not the useful kind. And then a horse that's underweight, if you aren't feeding them enough, then they aren't going to gain anything. In fact, they'll just lose weight. Bucky, thank you. And with him, one of his problems is he has low hind limb carriage, which means whenever he's walking, he kind of drags his feet along, which is partially conformational. A lot of thoroughbreds have that. He's an off-the-track thoroughbred, about 8 years old, who apparently likes cribbing a lot. A lot of thoroughbreds have that. It's just part of their conformation. You can sometimes see the horses with, I believe, the horses with the higher croup, which is point of buttocks to point of hip, tend to have that a little bit more. However, I could be wrong there, so double check me. And then one of the good ways that I can tell that he's under-muscled in the hind is if you look right here, there's this indent, and that is this is the semitendinosus muscle, and it's called semitendinosus atrophy, or this is commonly just referred to as the poverty line. It's a long story, but that's the more common name that people refer it to. And that's usually an indicator of a horse that has either semitendinosus atrophy or is just underweight. However, some horses will have conformationally, or you see it a lot with even very fit thoroughbreds because they are pushing off so much with their hind, but they aren't quite using that exact muscle. And then you can also see some horses, if you stand behind them, they have they have a very protruding tailbone. He does not. He is very ribby, but he's not totally under-muscled and underweight. He just shows a lot of ribs because he has a wide rib cage, which is another very important thing. If you have a horse that you're trying to gain weight on, I definitely recommend running a fecal and checking for any sort of worms or anything like that. He's already been checked for them because you see that a lot in horses that are ribby. And then another good thing I can look at is right here, his top line. It kind of has a negative angle where the actual spine is up and protruding out of the muscles when you want it to be more level. But you don't want it to be indented because then the horse is probably overweight. But he's actually gotten more muscle. Right now I'm not really doing much riding with him because this is where they're carrying the rider, so it's the most important part, and you really need to build that up before you're going to be riding them too much. Some horses, not him as much, have, he has a little bit of one, but not him as much, have a real U-neck. They refer to them different ways. I think of a U, the shape, which just means that their neck kind of goes down. And then you'll also see the cresty horses, which can be an overweight horse or a metabolic horse. There's plenty of different ways to tell. I know that there's different body conditioning scores that people go by, but these are just some of the things I look at and some of the ways I can tell he needs more muscle in certain places. So I'm here with Bucky now. We're going to be doing some exercises. One of the first things I like to do is ask for them to lower their head. So I can ask a couple different ways. He knows by me putting my hand down. He does actually know that. Good boy. And that helps raise the spine, which will help build muscle, as well as sometimes I ask them to stretch out their axis up here a little bit by, they call it stolting, where you just take a hand, push in very lightly on the jaw muscle, and then push out very lightly on the muzzle.
Just pushing on the jaw more.
You don't want to do it anything too crazy because that area doesn't flex very well. But that's just a good place to start. And then I'm gonna walk him with intention to warm him up a little bit. I have my whip right here, which I'm holding closest to the horse, so it would be in my right hand, if you're leading from the left side, as most people do. So I'm gonna start walking. Keep up a little bit.
So what's the whip for?
It just gives clear indications of signals because he tends to fall behind a little bit. So it's helping me ask him to move forward, but you'll see I don't really touch it with it as long as it's just indicating. Now, if you're getting more complicated things, you might be using the whip a little more different. Now I'm going to ask him to put his head down while he's walking. There we go, good boy. So when I'm doing that, I'm looking for his ears to be below his withers.
His ears to be what? Say?
His ears to be below his withers.
Okay. And point to his withers.
This part.
All right.
Some horses get bored. Now whenever I'm asking for trotting, I'm going to move a little bit differently, a little bouncier. And I'm going to click, click, click. Head down. Head down. Good boy. So with that, it's just me asking him out of breath. It's more work for me.
So yeah, it's more of a workout for you, I guess.
Yeah.
So
But it's one of the best. I'm not lunging him on the lunge line right now because I get a better control over his headset, and he just prefers being closer to me. He gets kind of nervous on the lunge line. When a horse gets nervous, their head goes up. Now I'm trying to keep his head fairly low. But I don't like them trotting with their head lower than their knees, or their muzzle lower than their knees, unless they are stretching. Because that can cause them to really fall onto the forehand, and even possibly fall. I've been, oh, sorry, I keep hitting him with the whip. One of the things that I've been doing with him is asking him to go to trot for a couple of steps, then stop, trot, then stop. There's plenty of great riders and dressage people that will say any horse is uphill for a second, which is ideal, but only whenever you're transitioning them. So if you have a really downhill horse, transitioning them into a faster gait can usually help with them pushing onto the forehand, or pushing off of the forehand. Good boy. And I'm going to be doing this both directions to make sure that he's going to be evenly muscled. Now, if they have a worse direction, you can work that direction more, but you don't want to tire it out too much. Boy. And move. Good boy. So I'll take him in the other direction in a few minutes here, but we're going to start with the poles in a second. Real quick, you can see that I use wooden poles, and these ones are square. They just don't spin off as easily. And they're a little bit on the taller side, so they're really asking you to pick up specifically his hind legs. Again, a great exercise to help your horse with low limb carriage or that just drags toes, like this.
now will you walk or trot or both or?
I'm going to be walking him over it mostly. Boy, even if they don't do it perfectly, they aren't trying to do it badly. They just kind of are. But
Now, when he clunks them a little bit, is that something that if he works with that'll go away, or is that his timing, or what is?
in theory, it'll go away. Some horses are just not very good with their feet. A lot of warm bloods tend to naturally know where their feet are. A lot of drafts tend to be very tough to get them to know that. And then thoroughbreds are the type of horse where they don't always know where their feet are, which I don't know where that'd be useful for galloping them on the track.
So what do you mean by warm bloods?
Warm bloods, as in true warm bloods, like Canterburyans. There's old birds, which some of them are true warm bloods. What else? Let's see what I can think of. I think Westphalians are. Danish warm bloods, Dutch warm bloods, and plenty of other horses. They're all the fancy ones that I can't afford.
What are the thoroughbreds considered?
They're a hot blood. One of three main one of three hot bloods. There's thoroughbreds, Arabians, and Aquatiques.
And what?
Aquatiques.
Say that again.
Aquatique.
Aquiltique.
Aquatique.
Axletique.
Axle with a K. Aquatique.
Axletique.
Aquatique. Say apple.
Axle.
No, apple.
Axle.
Say ack.
Ack.
Ol.
Ol.
Teak.
Teak. Ackle-teak.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right. Okay. What about standard breds?
Standard breds are considered a warm blood, as many horse breeds are. Though most people wouldn't consider them a true warm blood. Because when we think of true warm blood, warm blood, we're thinking of more of the English, specifically hunter type horses. Because even quarter horses would be considered a warm blood, but you don't hear people be like, oh, look at my warm blood, and it's a quarter horse. But a standard bred is considered a warm blood. However, there has been debate about whether there should be a warm blood or a hot blood. I have a standard bred and a standard bred half-winter cross as well.
So, and what, now you said a draft horse, what would they be considered? Cold bloods?
Yeah, cold bloods.
Does anyone ever call them cold bloods?
I mean, I'm sure they do, but it's not as common as like you hear somebody talk about, oh, I like hot-blooded horses, because I'm not sure if things like halflingers are considered a cold blood because they're a draft. Oh, Bucky. We're still working on personal space with him. He doesn't have much of it. He just wants to be in your lap the whole time.
What's his disposition like? I mean, I don't see him biting at you or kicking at you or.
I don't know, he's a little wild. He's very sweet, but kind of nervous around new people.
Is he camera shy at all?
Good boy.
Good job, Bucky.
You'll notice that he's bumping them less as we're doing this more. Now, walk poles actually do work more muscles than trot poles or canter poles, and they're good for a horse that's underweight because it's not going to make them lose too many calories, which is something that you really have to look for. He's on some good different calorie supplements, free choice forage. Good boy. He's on free choice forage, calorie supplements, alfalfa, and breeding control.
So these next
stuff.
exercises we're going to be doing is going to be called haunches in or shoulders in. So some horses find haunches in easier, some horses find shoulder in easier. He's still very new at it, very green at it. So if you're really curious about what it looks like, I recommend looking up videos of horses that are actually skilled at it doing it. So what that's going to be is haunches in. It's going to mean his haunches, this whole area here, is going to be more towards the inside of the arena than his shoulders. So he's almost going to be, using his, let me think. If I was taking him this direction, he would be using his right hind leg the most to pick up that weight and lift himself.
Is it easier to explain it inside or outside if you're going on?
Well, yeah, it would be the outside leg that you're exercising.
Okay.
And then with shoulders in, it can be sometimes simpler for them to originally get. You can kind of imagine the same thing, but it's his shoulders being more in and forwards. You'll see that a lot in dressage tests as they get a little bit more up there, but before things like side passing and half passing. I don't even know if they do side passes anymore in dressage, but he's very green at it. I will recommend, if you're very curious, to look up some videos of skilled horses, and always hearing other people explain it can make it a bit easier. But I'm gonna grab my whip, and then we're gonna start. So to make things a lot easier, having a wall like this is going to be very helpful. It gives something so then they don't just start floating off into the middle of space, and neither will you. Again, putting my whip to the inside. A lot of people do this in a cabochon, which is just like fancy halter, but it has clips up here, so it can be a little bit more controllable. I do not have a cabochon, so right here, I'm going to start now. I'm going to put my whip. I'm asking for haunches in, so I'm going to push his haunches out. And if he gives me even a little bit, good boy. Come on. If you can't see, he's getting very confused. He has his eyes tense, his ears a little bit back, and his jaws, his lips very tight. He's just a little bit confused, which makes him a little bit nervous. So we're taking it slow. Come on. Come on, Buck. Good boys. So then, boy, he gave me a little bit there. Good boy. Again, a little bit, nothing too fancy. This wouldn't be true haunches-in, because true haunches-in is a little bit different. With true haunches-in, oh, sorry, Bucky. Touched him with the whip. With true haunches-in, I would want this outside hind leg being right behind the inside front leg. But this is like a simplified version of haunches-in. And then we're gonna do shoulders-in. I'm gonna do a circle, ask for haunches-in this direction, and then we'll start with some shoulders-in. When you're initially teaching this, I recommend taking it slow because it's easy to overwhelm a horse. He's staring at his reflection in the window. As he's coming towards me, I'm switching directions. Everybody has a different way of switching directions. So whenever you're doing haunches-in, you usually want to be, a lot of people do it while walking backwards. Good boy. Now, while we're walking onto the wall, I'm going to use this as a good moment to try and see if I can keep him in this sort of position while we're walking. All right, Buck, come on. Boy. Good boy. Good. Touching him on the haunches to help him move off of pressure. As most horses know, pressure and release very well. Come on, Buck. Come on. All right. So right now I'm just telling him it's okay. We're confused. He's not trying to be disobedient. He's just confused and a little scared, for being honest. He just needs to be hugged. Oh. Is it a lot for you? He says this is just a lot to learn. Come on. All right, Buck. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. You might have seen just the slightest bit of his haunches going to the inside. So that is, I'm just going to congratulate him for that.
Now, in your opinion, do they have an attention span after so many minutes that just...
They have no attention span. No. They say about 3 seconds is their attention.
No, I mean how long you should work with them before they just get overwhelmed and...
You can tell when a horse is starting to get overwhelmed. He gets overwhelmed pretty quickly, so I'm just trying to finish this up. Some horses could be working on the same thing for hours and be content. Most, I'd say, keep the sessions under 20 minutes when they're learning something new. And also try a bunch of different things. Like, you don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, so next I'm going to be doing shoulders in, which has to do with the shoulders going to the inside while the haunches stay on the rail. I think that this is going to be considered more of first position, which is kind of like haunches in, but not to that extreme, because it's considered a, what would that be? Sorry, hang on. A 4-track, I think? Yeah, let me think. So horses typically walk on 2 tracks, like this, where that hoof follows that hoof and that hoof follows that hoof. In haunches in or shoulders in, ideally they should be walking on 3 tracks, where for shoulders in, it'll be, so it'll be this hoof follows that, or this hoof follows that hoof, and then, and then haunches in, this hoof follows that hoof.
Okay.
So it's going to be one outlier just hanging out there, and that's why it's considered 3 tracks, because there's 3 different places they're stepping. 4 tracks, basically he's going to be right in between what he should be doing, which I'm still going to reward. So this hoof will actually be, this hoof is probably going to come to right about here. So it's going to be more down the center line of the horse. It's not quite as, it's not considered a true shoulder in unless it's a 3-track, but we're calling it a shoulder in because it's the shoulders to the inside. But if you want to be proper, you can call it first position, but it doesn't have to be called that. Same with haunches in. I forget what the improper name for haunches in is. So I'm going to ask him to step over, good boy. So sometimes, good boy. Come on. Good boy.
Now, it seems like this would actually be easier because you can work on both sides. You can work on both sides of the horse, whereas the other one you had to reach over and kind of get to the top and a taller horse.
I did that one first because I figured for him in particular, it's a little bit less frustrating for him to do the hard thing and then an easy thing, and we end on that note. You'll see that he's not quite following the rail, so we're doing a little bit of turning, and ideally the haunches should be on the rail, the shoulder should be on the inside. But when you're working with a horse that doesn't quite understand it, we're going to be happy about what we can get.
And real quick, what's the benefit? You can keep working, just...
So this would be, let me think, helping the horse with strength, flexibility. There we go. Good boy. If I can get one more step like this, I'm going to call it good for this direction. Come on. Oh, we kind of went off the rail, but that's good enough for him. And then it's also going to strengthen the, what would that be? I think it would be one of the hind legs, so let me just think to make sense of it. It would be strengthening, oh, I'm sorry, Bucky, I keep poking him with that. I'm sorry. I think it's going to be strengthening the outside hind leg. Sometimes it takes me a second. I keep hitting him with this whip, this poor horse. So now I'm going to start walking him on a straight line a little bit to see if I can that. Good boy. Good boy, come on. Come on. And good boy. That was a pretty good couple of steps. I'm going to let him relax, and that's probably about what we're going to do with the exercises, but it's very important to give your horse some love-ins. Some people will be training with treats and using treats. I do like that, but right now I don't have any treats for him. And he likes treats, but he also likes the attention just as much. So that's some of the things I'm doing to strengthen him. You have to be very consistent if you want to see results, but don't overwork your horse too much. If your horse is considered emaciated or severely underweight, you shouldn't be working them at all. They should just be trying to gain weight. And right now, putting a rider on top of them isn't going to do much other than having them hollow out some more if they're built like him.
What do you mean by hollow out, real quick?
They put their head up, their back comes down, so they aren't really using their back muscles to support you. They're just kind of have their back hunched. Versus what I'm asking him to do is a little bit of an over-dramatization of eventual collection would be, think of this was a hollow horse. This is what they should be moving like, straight posture. And then this is what I'm asking him to do to kind of over-exaggerate it whenever I'm asking him to put his head down. That's really him lifting up his back and widening his shoulders. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you here again. Thanks.